10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 263. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 263 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. So glad to have you back, and we're going to wrap up this month with our traditional Tune of the Month episode. Now, we've been talking about All of Me this past week. We checked out a really nice lick from Sonny Stitt, and that is going to be the Tune of the Month. We're going to do it in the traditional key, which is Concert C, is where it's typically played, even though Sonny Stitt was playing it in Concert B flat. But before I get too deep into talking about what we're doing, just wanted to let you know that if you want to support the podcast and get PDFs for every single episode, including the etude that we're going to be going over today, you'll get that in concert, B flat, E flat, and bass clef. You can support us on Patreon, and that is a small monthly fee, and you get all kinds of fantastic rewards, and you get the good feeling that you keep this show coming at you each and every week. So to check out how to sign up for that and what it costs each month, go to 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, get yourself signed up today for instant access. We've got a ton of new patrons this week, and I wanted to give a big shout out to everybody that has chosen to support us. So thank you to our new $5 patrons, Jure, Audrey, Rachel, and thank you to our new $3 patrons, Jacques, Andreas, Michael, John, and Christian. Thank you guys so much for joining up, joining the family, and I hope you're enjoying all of the materials that are over there. As usual, to our Patreons that have been with us for months and years, thank you all. You really keep this thing happening. So again, you can sign up, become part of the family by going to 10minutejazzlesson.com, clicking on one of the Patreon banners, signing yourself up today. All right, so let's dive into the Tune of the Month. This is one of my favorite jazz standards. One of the cool things about this tune is I think it's kind of a bridge between the older style of jazz and a more modern style of jazz. It has characteristics of both. You can play very, very traditionally over this tune and it will work. And you can play some pretty serious advanced language over this tune, and that will also sound natural. So it's a great bridge between like the early jazz of the 1920s and 30s and the stuff that came later, bebop in the 40s and then everything that came after that. So it's a great tune to know. I think it's an essential jazz standard that you have to have in your repertoire. I play this tune all the time on gigs, and it is always super fun. So what I tried to do when I was writing the etude was incorporate some of the rhythmic flexibility that we've been talking about this month. So when I was writing it rhythm first, right? I was really trying to make it interesting on a rhythmic level before I worried about the harmonic and melodic language that I was using. And that's actually a really cool way to approach a tune, right? Normally what we're always thinking about is our language in terms of our note choice. That seems to be something that all of my students think about first. But if you take the opposite approach where you're thinking about rhythm first, a lot of time that will lend itself to using the proper melodic language. So that could be something that you all could try this week. Try writing your own etude or just approaching a improvised solo rhythm first. So let's hear the etude first, and then we will talk about some of the rhythmic ideas that I tried to incorporate. was trying to think about was that exercise we did in episode 260 and 261, where we were trying to use a lot of different rhythmic values. And I chose a couple of them that I think really worked over this chord progression and this tempo in general. And what I settled on was a lot of quarter note triplets. And then I also tried to use dotted quarter notes, running dotted quarter notes as much as I could. And I tried to use transitions between them. So let's look at a couple of spots. The first one will be right at the beginning. What you will notice in the first two measures is that I'm using 4 dotted quarter notes, one after another, and that transitions into a quarter note triplet. So that plays off of a little bit of rhythmic flexibility right off the bat, actually. I'm combining those quarter notes, those dotted quarter notes with a quarter note triplet, creates a really nice effect. Now, at measure 9, I decided to experiment with some half notes, and this was just to kind of prove that you can use longer note values to really great effect. I think a lot of us are so hesitant to go a couple of measures without playing any eighth notes, and we don't need to do that. It can work if you choose the notes really, really carefully and you think about the phrase and try to play off of something natural. You can use something like half notes to really, really nice effect over this. So in measures 9 and 10, I use 4 half notes right in a row and then go into some eighth notes. So you can see that can be very effective, and there's no reason to shy away from something like half notes. Okay, now jumping down to measure 13, I am using a combination of quarter note triplets with a little eighth note tag, and I think this creates a really, really nice effect over that concert D7 chord in 13 and 14. And I really like the way the 2 eighth notes on beat 3 sound after playing that quarter note triplet. I feel like that rhythm really lends itself to what's going on with the chord changes and the particular spot in the tune where it is. Okay, so measure 17, you will notice I'm doing the quarter note triplet combined with dotted quarter notes again, but this time I'm kind of reversing it. This time at 17, the quarter note triplet comes first, and then I play a string of 4 dotted quarter notes after that. So you can tell that I really like that combination of a quarter note triplet and dotted quarter notes. I just think that sounds really, really cool. That's about it for the really interesting rhythmic stuff. The only other thing I did was at measure 29 in kind of my closing rhythmic statement. I used an entire measure of dotted quarter notes, and I feel like this is a great way to put a cap on the melodic statement, which is this etude. It's very clear, it's very simple, and I think it just kind of signals to the listener, hey, we're coming to the end of the form here, and we're about to go either back into another chorus of solo, or we're going to end the solo right here. So measure 29 and 30, and I guess the first beat of 31 are me trying to make a simple but effective statement using an interesting rhythm like an entire measure of quarter note triplets. And this is an example of like a more old school type of playing. This is an example of like a phrase that I would play when I'm playing with the Soggy Po Boys, the New Orleans band that I play with. Just something simple, effective, not super bebop, not doing anything outside of the chord changes, not a lot of tension, but just something that's very singable and something that is very clear. That's an example of that. So you can hear some of the things that I did. You'll also notice that I avoided a few of those rhythmic values that we did in the examples from 260 and 261. The tempo is not right for a lot of dotted half notes. So I didn't really choose to use those because they sound awkward and they don't really fit over this tempo, which is like 140 BPM. It doesn't work. I would use those over like a much faster tempo, maybe a little bit more of an advanced chord progression harmonically. So you really have to be kind of choosy about what you're going to do. Don't just try to throw the kitchen sink at the etude if it doesn't fit. At the end of the day, you have to go with what's musical. So I hope you enjoyed this etude. Let me know if you have any questions. Great place to ask is on the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Community Facebook group. That's also a fantastic place to post a little video or audio of yourself actually playing it and show people that you are working on this material and trying to get better. You know, we could all use a little bit of encouragement when it comes to that. And hearing the other people that listen to the show, I think, is great encouragement. You can also get in touch with me at 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. And I hope you've got something out of this before we get a little bit crazy next month. We're going to take these exercises and kind of put them on steroids and try to give you something a little bit more challenging to do. Anyways, have fun with the etude. Remember, if you want to grab that etude in all keys, you can go over to our Patreon site, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, get your hands on that material today, help you be a better jazz musician. All right, I'm going to play the etude one more time and then take a course of improvisation. Again, thinking rhythm first when I'm doing this. Hope you all had a fantastic week. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy out there. And we will see you next week with a brand new episode. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.